Hey beauties, welcome back to the Real Girl Talk podcast radio show. I am your host, Sherry Ricard. I am a medical professional, business leader, author, speaker, and adversity recovery specialist, bringing you incredible guests, Friday Fire messages, sharing business, beauty, and lifestyle tips to help you create an abundant life, and always committed to keeping it real. Now let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to Real Girl Talk Podcast Radio. Before we dive in, I want to announce our launch. My husband and I have opened Silver Lining Wellness Company. As some of you already know, it's an e-commerce CBD wellness product line. And yes, it's our own private label, researched and tested and created by an incredible chemist, and we're bringing it to you. So go check it out, www.silverliningwellnesscompany.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Silver Lining Wellness Company. And for a limited time, you can use promo code LAUNCH10 for 10% off every single order until September 30th. So this offer will expire, so go shop now. We are committed to providing you the highest quality CBD potency and wellness products available on the planet. So again, go to www.silverliningwellnesscompany.com. Don't forget to use promo code LAUNCH10 for 10% off now. And I can't wait for you to meet my beautiful, intelligent guest, Dr. Lona Cook. She has spoken at and attended hundreds of events in the past decade with some of the biggest thought leaders in holistic health and well-being. She owns and operates 3 chiropractic practices. She is creating and facilitating deep dive mastermind retreats to grow personally and professionally, and has written and co-authored over 5 books. Today, she is sharing from her new book, Reclamation, the Evolution of a Hot Mess. Well, hello, Dr. Lona. How are you?
I'm doing great, Sherry. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you on because we were just talking about the things of the external world and how they affect us internally. And we're going to talk about that because you have a traumatic event that happened in your life, and you can use those events to affect you negatively or in a positive or purposeful way, right? I always believe that, our pain often creates our purpose, or we find our purpose through our pain. And I'm sure most people would agree if they think back of some traumatic events or things that they went through, even if it's just divorce. And I hate to say just divorce because divorce is traumatic, but that person is still around in some form or fashion, right? They're living on earth. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily that you lost them to death and they're gone forever, but you went through a unique situation. But first, I really kind of want you to share with us a little bit about some of the things in your book. And I haven't been able to go all through your book, but I am very grateful that it was sent to me because, I told you I love to read, and I set my books in a stack as I'm going, like week by week. They don't move. Like I have a whole bookshelf full of books, but then I have, my housekeeper probably goes, why does she keep these books here? And then she's got a whole shelf full of books, but I pull out books in order of how I want to read them. Mm-hmm. And I told somebody, and I'll tell you, one of my personal goals is to read the Bible from cover to cover. Awesome. And my age, I should have done this a long time ago, right? But when I'm sitting there reading the Bible, I really wanted to I pay more attention when it's story form, because I do have a little bit of that ADD where I can be in deep focus and then somebody can get my attention and I'm like, squirrel, and I'm off to something else. So I got the 1-year Bible. And it's a little different format, but everything's there. All the scriptures, all the stories is the same. They just kind of moved things around in more of a story so you can follow it. And so that's what I'm reading.
Is it called the 1 year? The 1 year Bible?
The 1-year Bible. And I love it because I can read that, put that down, and then I will read a little bit on I call it my book of the month, of what I'm reading. And I set them in my chair, which everybody has their spot, right, in their den, in their TV room. And I have my chair that I call my prayer chair, and that is just where mama sits.
That's awesome. I want to do that. I'm going to
You
have to
need to
look up
do
this
that.
1 year Bible. Yeah.
That's right. You have to order the 1 year Bible. And it's really good because, it's a personal goal. It's not something that I will need in like a professional life. It's personal. And I want to be able to speak from education because I speak from experience on so much of what I do. So, anyway, I am excited to dive into your book. And I want you to tell everybody a little bit about your book. My favorite is your subtitle, The Evolution of a Hot Mess.
Yeah, I love the title too.
I think we've all called ourselves a hot mess at one time or another, probably like a dozen times in the last 50 something years. So tell us a little bit about your book, and then we're going to dive into your unique traumatic story as well.
Sure, definitely. Well, thank you. Also, I will say I read the kids' Bible with my son who's 6, and I feel like you have accomplished something because we get through the whole thing and it's like, oh, we can do this again. Yeah. So that's great. Okay, so my book is called Reclamation: The Evolution of a Hot Mess. And I love the word reclamation because what I wanted to share in this book is that I think at the core of us, we hold all the answers, all the power. We're connected to God or source. I don't personally really care what you call it because I think it's just semantics on some level. When you have it in your heart, and um and when we can go back to that foundation that's within us and start to see the connection we have internally to our external world, our life changes. And for most of us, it does take sometimes a traumatic, more or less traumatic or tough time in our life to kind of break us open to some of those truths.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to use my story of kind of the hard knocks and the good parts of life, and how I really can look back to almost like a point in my life where I would say like my life was lived one way up until this point, and then there was like this defining line where I got shook and awake,
Mm-hmm.
and then my life changed, and it changed for very much for the better. Doesn't mean that I still don't have very tough things that we go through. It's just I look at it so differently. It's like instead of life happening to me, it's happening for me.
Mm.
And it's happening to help me wake up to more of, I think, this innate connection that we all have, this power that's within us.
Right.
And you look at the world right now. I mean, we need to know that the world would not feel so chaotic, I think, if at our foundation there was this sense that I'm part of something bigger than me, and
Right.
it's working through me. So when I tell my story, it's to hopefully help other people see that within their own hot mess, and feel okay with it.
And you do tell your story in your book, but do you also guide us through our own hot mess? Or
Yes.
what could
Yep.
potentially be our hot mess?
I hope to. At the end of each chapter, there's some questions to go through that
Nice.
hopefully can help you resonate the story into your own perspective or what else is unfolding in your own life.
Right.
Because I know, just like for myself, there are specific people who help guide me through certain things by asking me questions. They didn't have to have the answer, they just were there to necessarily help me find the answer in myself, or at least help me move through the difficult spot. Or even just show you that, like, sometimes I think we have this like sense about ourselves, and we think because I've always been one way, I have to continue to be that way.
Mhm.
And then I think life gets hard because we're meant to change while we're here. We're meant to shift, we're meant to grow. And when we stay in these ruts, it's like, something pretty big is going to have to shake you out of it. So
Right. It's true in relationships too, if you think about it, because you can hear people talk about, oh, I'm stuck in a rut in my marriage and we need to try something new. We need to do something, we need to shake things up. And I believe you have to act on that because we can get stuck in a rut with our profession. at our particular job, wherever you work, you get stuck in relationships with family members, your spouse alike. And I think that you have to shake things up, because a lot of times
Sure.
we do get stuck and we have to continue to grow. How many times have you heard someone that's gone through a divorce say, oh, we just outgrew each other?
Hmm.
You outgrow each other because you get stuck and you stay there.
Yeah, no, you're so right. And just because you maybe shook things up last year doesn't mean it doesn't need to be continued
Right.
evolution. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's one thing I share pretty openly in the book is, if I look at what my pattern was, pattern work is such a profound thing to do, to look at your own life and kind of take a, pull yourself back, do the like mile high view of your own life for a moment and see
Mhm.
like what is cyclical in my life. And is it cyclical in a way that I like the pattern, or is it like, oh no, this is a pattern that keeps repeating because I keep making the same decisions and
Mm.
they're not healthy. And so for myself, I was kind of in my younger years had more of a sense of like if I didn't like something, I was out. I was going to run away from it. And you get married and that doesn't work so well because you've got vows and legal bindings and things like that. And
Right.
so my husband and I got married and I thought, "Oh, we did it and it'll work." And it was like, "Oh, wait, no. Just because we did this thing doesn't mean that any of our patterns are different." He had been married before. I was like a habitual like, "I'm just going to avoid this and run away." And so, we had a lot of things to break through in that first year of marriage that were rough. And what I realized was it was not about him at all. It was all about me. And his stuff was all about him. And we both had to like do our own work. And we still continue to, but it gets better the more that I'm willing to look at my own pattern in this. And just like you said, like shake
Right.
things up and make it a priority. And realize sometimes in the value scheme of like what's important right now, the reason I'm getting what I'm getting is because I haven't put time, energy, and money into changing this.
Right.
So
Right. I completely agree with you. And you had a very traumatic event. And first tell the story. Tell the story about what happened and how that externally, because it happened externally to you, right? How that affected you internally.
I start my book off in 2009. I was in Costa Rica for a month for our last rotation, essentially for chiropractic school. I'm a chiropractor, and it was broad daylight. They had told us like to go places in pairs and generally not go outside of our apartment by ourselves or
Mhm.
on trips by ourselves. But I had felt reasonably comfortable everywhere. And I was getting probably relaxed into my scenario. And so I just thought I'm just gonna run over to the internet cafe. And it was, maybe like 15-minute walk away from where we were staying. So I went by myself and I ended up getting held up at gunpoint where two men on a motorcycle like pulled in front of me, and as fast as I didn't see it coming, it was over. And they had
Wow.
just taken what I had on me. And I remember standing there as the guy jumped off and he was talking to me in Spanish, and I'm blonde haired and blue eyed, so obviously they probably knew I wasn't going to direct them to wherever they were asking me to go in Spanish.
Mhm.
And the back guy jumped off the motorcycle, and I looked down and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a gun. And so of course I handed my stuff over, and then as soon as it happened, it was done. And so it was almost like it happened so fast that I
Right.
didn't really have time to feel fear in that moment. And for myself, I would say that I've always been a very like take no prisoners kind of attitude. Like I just was a person who generally made decisions quick, moved fast in the world, and didn't fear things. And so I didn't actually have a ton of fear. Like I remember standing there thinking, do I keep going to the internet cafe or do I walk back home? Because I had to go somewhere. And it was like, I guess I'll go to the internet cafe because that's where I thought I was going. So I I at the time, and this might just be being young where you don't have fear over certain things.
Okay.
I got back to the States. I remember thinking like, what the heck is happening? Because it was like I had that happen when I was in Costa Rica. I get back. I'm living in Minnesota. I'm supposed to move out to California. I was going to do my last externship out there, and then and then get licensed and take a job in California.
Mhm.
And that was my plan. And if you would have asked me, prior to Costa Rica, do I ever see myself living back in my hometown, which is Western Wisconsin, where I practice now? I would have been like, no, I don't know where I'm going to end up for sure, but I know I'm not going back home. And,
Mm.
you've heard the thing, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what I remember, just thinking about that quote all the time during this part of my life, because it was like everything I thought I was going to do, it just it would be like door closed, door closed, door closed. And so I remember sitting in my office that I was working in Minnesota, and the doctor, she turned around and she looked at me and she's like, when are you going to get it that this is not supposed to happen? You are not supposed to move to California. If you need a sign, I'm your sign. and
Wow.
and I remember thinking, she's so right, but I can't back down. And so, as someone who has always been kind of like the bull in china shop person,
Yeah.
I remember driving home on the freeway crying, which also wasn't like me, because I just didn't know what to do. And so I got back to
Mm.
my parents and they were like, are you moving in the morning? Are we leaving and driving out there? And I just said, I don't know. And I went to bed, which also wasn't like me to be like, I don't know. And I woke up and it was like the first time I can remember, certainly the first time in my adult life, I remember feeling like this, where I just kind of threw my hands up in the air and was like, okay, I'm not supposed to go out there. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm just going to give myself permission to actually make a different choice and back down.
Wow.
And it was like, that was the opening that I think my life needed. And I really do believe in, law of attraction. And I think one of the things in law of attraction that we forget is, whether we understand it or not, or realize we're practicing it, by the nature of where we place our internal state. Meaning, if I'm in a state that's joyful or loving or gratitude, my life reflects that, versus if I'm in a state of fear and anger, you are a walking law of attraction, whether you realize it or
Right.
not.
Right.
That pause allowed me to kind of calibrate into something different, where I didn't know what needed to happen next, but realized whatever path I was on wasn't going to be the right fit. And that's one of the pieces of advice I try to give people, is you don't have to have it all figured out. In fact, I
Right.
encourage you not to, you know, like
Right.
let God work through you, or let the universe work through
Yeah.
you, and start to get playful about what is life showing me right now? Because at my point there, lots of doors were closing, so much so that I had to have a gun to the chest to get me to wake up to some of my choices probably weren't actually in my best interest, and I just couldn't
Mm.
see it because I'd lived like that for quite a while.
Wow.
um, that was where I kicked the book off, and I really
Wow.
I call that phase of my life, that about that 30-day period, was the slap to the face to it's time to do something different and look at your life from a different perspective.
How old were you when that happened in Costa Rica?
25.
You were young, but then again, you were, many years
Mhm.
over the, what we call it adult. I think 16-year-olds, a lot of them think they're adults these days. But yeah, I mean, 25, that's pretty rough. And I can see where that can shape or change your life in some way. Um, I'm glad that you were able to get back to the States. You could have had your
Mhm.
passport on you and they took your passport, or or they could have shot you if they thought you were resisting. So
Right.
whatever
Yeah, I
happened,
was so protected somehow in all of it. You know what
yes,
I mean?
so protected, absolutely
Yes.
protected. I mean, it's amazing how many times I think back, wow, I was so protected in that situation, or I was protected in this situation. I have literally looked in my rearview mirror and saw a car coming that I thought there's no way that they have time to stop and I have nowhere to go. And screeching, and never touched my car. It's like, how did
Right.
that happen? Because if you just looked, it's like I was just bracing for impact. It happened to me this morning. I'm sitting at a red light and I was waiting to turn left, and a car on the other side was turning beside me. And I don't know if he was, smoking crack, or he was sleeping, or he thought I was invisible. I have no idea. But he cut so close, I literally grabbed my steering wheel and braced for impact. I thought he was going to just swipe the whole side and front left tip of my car coming around and going in the next lane. And I screamed out loud. I was by myself. I screamed out loud and I
Mhm.
thought, oh my God. because I thought he was just about to hit me, but to the point where, your legs get so weak, it's hard to drive because you can't believe
Mhm.
you just avoided that situation. But yeah, you think back, I mean, I know people listening are thinking back right now of all the times that I know that they feel like that they were protected in some way, whether it be an accident or a traumatic event or something that happened, in your life. I spoke to a woman before where she could have been raped and somebody came along screaming and the man took off and she was
Mm.
protected. I mean, just you never know. I mean, that's why I always say pray for those linking angels around you to support you and every day, wake up and pray the protection prayers. Pray for a shield of armor to protect you wherever you go. You hear stories about that all the time. So thank you
Mhm.
for sharing that because it's by the grace of God you're here because it could have gone really wrong. And then for you to use that to write your book and try to help other people, I think that that's very noble. And I think that's what we're supposed to do. I think that's living a purpose-filled life. And so I appreciate that. And I'm even more looking forward and excited to reading your book. But some of the things that you talk about in your book, or you've talked about since you wrote your book, is when is it time to recognize your hustle isn't getting you to where you want to go? Let's chat about that. What does that mean? When to recognize your hustle isn't getting you where you want to go?
When we see our external world is connected to our internal world, I can't tell you,
Mhm.
especially as okay, as a chiropractor, a doctor, I get to hear a lot of like what's going on with people's bodies and what their, symptoms that they're experiencing and whatnot.
Right.
And unfortunately, we've been taught that like our symptoms, we just want them to go away, right?
Right.
And we're not taught usually that our symptoms are our body's way of connecting to us or talking to us. So we
Mhm.
look at them like they're all wrong instead of like maybe this is intelligent what it's trying to show me, even though it's unpleasant or really unpleasant.
Mhm.
And so same thing with our external world, like, the gunpoint was obviously an unpleasant experience that was teaching me something. And
Right.
so when I see like the breakdown of meaning, like when I started to realize that life is happening through me, not to me, and my external world is like a mirror to like what my internal antenna or dial is tuned into. And I had lots of things in my past that I held shame and grief and different things over where it was like, yeah,
Hmm.
probably that's not setting a good energetic grid for me. And
Mhm.
I wasn't aware of it until all of a sudden I started to become more aware of it. And so when I say like that your hustle might be out of balance is like how many people are in jobs, for instance, where they're in their job because I just talked to someone in the recent week or two where they stay in this job only to keep insurance because
Mm.
they're so afraid of like what the next thing may be that it might, it's like we stay in these things that feel safe and really they're making
Right.
us sick. And that could be a relationship, it could be.
Today's episode is sponsored by Ready Slim. Okay, I will cut right to the chase. I have been feeling amazing these days and I have more energy. I feel lighter. I get a good night's sleep and I wake up feeling super refreshed every morning. So what's my secret? It's Ready Slim's Detox Teas. Ready Slim Detox Teas are made with no fillers, no additives, and no laxatives, so they're safe to drink daily. And the best part of Ready Slim is how it aids in weight loss. Plus, it's keto friendly, and I love keto friendly products. I am telling you, Ready Slim has been added to my routine. I love the detox tea blend, Wakey Wakey, and that's what I use every morning, a lot of times in place of coffee. So say hello to a better, brighter you. And right now, for a limited time, you can save 25% off your first order of Ready Slim's 28-day detox tea kit, plus get a free collapsible water bottle. Go to readyslim.com/realgirltalk. That's readyslim.com/realgirltalk to save 25% off your first purchase of Ready Slim's 28-day detox tea kit plus a free collapsible water bottle. readyslim.com/realgirltalk. girl talk.
Job. It's like, again, if we go back to like, I don't think any of us are born to be here to just like go through the motions.
Right.
We have genius inside of us, we have purpose inside of us, but we're not going to get there by staying in the status quo. Hustle can be a great thing, and hustle can also be not a good thing if it's not aligned, right? If it's not where your heart actually is or where your calling is. So,
Right.
I think that's an internal conversation. And when meaning like, for instance, I had created my office that I sit in today, and I had a consultant that helped me immensely in the beginning. And his way of doing things, like I could wear his certainty and I could wear his like business model for a while, and
Mhm.
it fit and it worked because it helped me when I didn't know what I should be creating. Essentially, I had no context. And then eventually I realized like that's not really me. And if I keep practicing this way, I'm just being someone other than me. And I actually don't even like it that much. It was like, okay, I'm going to take what I've learned here, and now I can use that and say, thank you so much, and move it into a different version of hustle that feels so much more aligned. And then life opens up in so many ways. So I think it's
Right.
again that courage to like not say it's not stopping necessarily, it's aligned hustle. And then I think the fruits of your labor are like amplified because now you're working with the power of what is coming out of you that's really feeling like this is why my soul is here and this is what I'm meant to
Right.
do.
You probably said about 12 things there that I've even made post about in the last year,
I love it.
and when you said the things that happen externally, they affect us internally, and then vice versa as well, because what we feel and what we think usually comes to pass because that's what we're looking for. So
Hmm.
Proverbs 23:7 says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So if I'm
Mm,
thinking I'm defeated and I'm thinking of poverty, then I'm going to be in lack,
hmm.
right? And
And
whatever
it's a grid,
it
we
is.
like quantum science is showing some of us this now, is like there is like a vibrational tone, for instance, an old school radio with an antenna, right? If it was not quite in tune, you're getting some in, but there's some static, and you just stand next to it. You don't even have to touch the thing, and it changes what's coming in, right? You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
so our energy like system, it goes out bigger than our body, and we know that, but we don't talk about that enough. And
Mhm.
so then it's like someone who's in a state of depression, what is their energy field? And if we're magnetic, we're electromagnetic, what is that actually pulling into our experience? From when we were talking about like you are law of attraction, it's not when you're sitting writing goals, it's all the
Right,
time because you're an energy
right,
being.
right,
Our cadaver is not an energy being anymore, in the sense that it's lacking the soul and the spirit, but we who are alive,
right,
we are more than our physical body, and we just
right.
forget to talk about that. So, I think there's so many things that are showing us this now. If we start reading some of this these books and stuff that are like Bruce Lipton's work and Joe Dispenza's work that really talk to us about like the mind is so powerful, but the spirit connected with the mind and the body, like boom, that's like a recipe for major amazing things. Because it's, if you're
Mhm.
just doing physical to physical, that's slow. But if you add in physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, you got higher energy working through you.
Right.
Yeah, I
Right,
know.
exactly. That's where they get the term mind, body, and soul
Hmm.
because, and people use it in different forms, right? I know a lot of people will interchange the word God for universe or universe
Hmm.
for God, and that's just kind of normal to do that. But everybody knows my knowing and my faith is in God, and I truly believe we are who we say we are. So if you put out that you don't have value,
Hmm.
somehow in you, if you feel you're not as valuable as maybe somebody at work, or you're not as valuable as your friend, or you don't really create that value in that relationship, you won't. Because
Hmm.
as you think it, so are you. And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting when you're talking about the laws of attraction, and a lot of that is, there's example over example of how crazy true all of
Yeah.
that is. Because if you think about it, I've used this example before as a car. So say you get fixated and you're focused on a particular car, I don't know, let's just call it a white Cadillac. It's a white Cadillac. It's a white Cadillac. I want a white Cadillac. That's what I'm working towards. I love it. That's my favorite car. I've been planning on buying a car at the end of this year. All of a sudden, what do you see all over the road?
White
White
cattle.
Cadillacs everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, is it just that is a coincidence that white Cadillacs show up? No, it's because that is what your focus is on, and that's what you see.
Mhm.
And if you ever played that game where everybody can say, find something, everybody finds something blue in the room. Okay, now everybody close your eyes. Open your eyes. What's brown? And nobody can say a word.
Oh, right. Yes.
And it's because we've been focusing, and they focus for several minutes. Blue, has everybody got it? You got at least three things blue, or five things blue. I mean, you guys listening to me, you can try this if you're sitting, or if you're driving down the road right now. Look around really quick and think of three things that are blue. Close your eyes, not if you're driving, and open your eyes and tell me what you saw that was red. And everybody's going, "Oh man, I need to look for something red." No, you saw it, but you
Mhm.
weren't focused on it, so you don't remember that. That's not what you're leaning towards. It's so incredibly true. And the same thing is when it comes to God for me. If you
Mhm.
actually have your faith and you're knowing and you're loving and you're leaning towards and guiding where God is guiding you. A lot of people say, "Well, I don't hear from God." Well, listen, I don't know that you're going to hear this audible voice in your ear from God. It's called a knowing, right?
Mhm.
Faith are the things that are not seen. And you're not supposed to lean into your own understanding. The Bible says not to lean into your own understanding. You're supposed to have faith, because if we leaned into our own understanding, why would we even need faith? What's the point? If we knew everything already, what would we need faith for? And it talks
Mhm.
about it in the Bible that we're supposed to have faith. We're supposed to lean on God and have faith for those things to come. A lot of people say, "Well, I've prayed for this and I pray for that and I pray for this." That's great that you want to pray for all of these blessings and these abundances and things that you want to come, whether they're materialistic, or you're praying for a husband, or you're praying to get rid of the one you have. I don't know. Whatever your prayer is, but you're not supposed to constantly pray about those things. You're actually supposed to lean into God and let go and let God. And
Mm.
then when he sees that faith, he sees that commitment that you have with him, that's when he can pour his blessings. That's the power that we have,
Mhm.
and it's so true, because all of these external things happen. And all my audience knows that I lost my son, and what I wanted to do is die. I mean, let's just be honest.
Mhm.
I've said it many
Mhm.
times. What I wanted to do is just die. Two other people say, "Oh, you have two other children." Well, those two kids don't take the place of my middle son that I lost at 17 tragically, overnight, or within a split second, basically. It doesn't take
Mhm.
the place of that. But those things that happen externally to us, we can let them destroy us,
Right.
or we can actually use that and fulfill the purpose that God has for us. I chose the latter because I have two other children. How
Mhm.
selfish would I be? And I, I can tell you that my son would not want me to do that.
Mhm.
Love his brother and his sister. So, no, he wouldn't want me to crumble. He would want me to get up and be the same mom to them as I was to him.
Mhm.
So, really, no matter what happens in your life, you can use it to destroy the rest of your life. Or you could have, right? You could have just stayed at home and shut the curtain and never wanted to leave again, or been frightened to walk down the street ever again by yourself. It happens, but you let those things external to help you in a positive way, not to destroy you. And
Mhm.
I think in what you were just talking about in your hustle, is that how we take our past and reframe our future?
I think one of the most powerful things we can do is use, like, we know our past and we have a version of the history that we tell. And for some of us, we have used it to catapult us into something great, and use the pain or use whatever's there to
Right.
help us step forward. And for many of us also, there's parts of it that we're still telling a story that keeps us shackled or in a victim mentality or in this state of grief where you can't move out of it to do something next.
Mhm.
My mom has had some really tragic things happen, but she's still alive, but it's it's a long story. Anyways, there's times where there's a part of me that just wants to be the daughter and go lay next to her and say, I give up too. I realize like that serves no one, that doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve her. She wouldn't want that. My kids can't have that. So I can tell the story of it like it's so sad. This shouldn't have happened. Da 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 da. Or I can say, my mom's my best teacher. She has taught me so much in what's happened to her, where I've learned about grief and I've learned how to connect to people who are in really terrible human states. I never had any awareness to some of this before,
Mhm.
and so you see how your pain cracks you open into, if it doesn't break you, right, it
Right.
opens you. And I think, again, that's how like we connect to each other, because there's people that I think about now before I had the like experience to me, like some of what I went through with my mom.
Mhm.
I can't even imagine having two sons, what that's like. And I don't want to imagine it. And yet, the pain that's there, that also allows you to see pain in other people
Mm.
and connect to them, which I do think is part of God's plan for us, is to realize like we are all connected. I
Right.
can love my brothers and sisters. I cannot understand the choices they make and still like hold compassion for them.
Sure.
I do think there's just an aspect of using your story and starting to tell it in a way that gives you a new outlook on, why did this happen for me? What did it happen for me? What was this meant to teach me and open me up and connect me to, or see, or be able to help someone else with, you know?
Right.
And that's part of the reason why, like, for me, the story I tell about my mom is that, for in my mind, one of the most empowering ways I can use her story is that she is now my greatest teacher. That is what because there's no way I would have experienced some of this had I not gone through it with her, so rather than like, this shouldn't have happened, it's so sad, I'm angry, blah blah blah, which
Right.
I can feel. I totally can feel that. It's
Right.
unfair. No, there's a reason. Just like this is where my mind goes. In chiropractic, we have something that we call the major premise.
Hmm.
And it's that there's God is in everything, or intelligence is in everything. And so, you see like these pictures of like a sunflower seed, the seeds in it and how it's arranged. And there's like this beautiful sacred geometry there. And
Mhm.
then you might see a picture of like your kidney cells, and there's sacred geometry in there. And then there's a pan out on the world, and you look down on a part of the world and you can see how it's all laid out in this like beautiful perfection of so much order. Even like two cells in your body that come together to form a baby, like that is truly a miracle, right?
Right.
And we didn't have to consciously think about any of that, and yet it unfolds, life unfolds. And so to me, if we have that order, like, how do two cells know how to create everything that they create to create life? I just have so much reverence for that, that like, if there's divine order in the baby that's growing in your womb, then there is divine order in the hardships we experience too, somehow, because
Mhm.
either it's all part or none of it is, in my mind, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
It does. It makes complete sense. And I had told you that my first book, Wake Up Call: A Mother's Grief Journey, basically is twofold, right? It was a wake up call to me to see things different in life, because the book talks about my son, and I journaled for 7 years, and then it was published 7 years after he died, and we talked about that because understanding wake up calls can put you on a personal or professional path that you never can imagine yourself in. I would have never imagined myself sitting here doing podcast radio. Like, what? I mean, I don't even know at this point. I'd have to think back of how it happened, but it's really interesting that I was challenged by an individual just to do a Facebook Live, and I didn't know what to call it because I didn't know what I was going to talk about. And it was basically to break through the shyness of video.
Hmm.
I could stand on stage and talk all day long, and then somebody would put a camera in front of my face, even though I did pageants my whole life. But if you put literally a TV camera would come to my face, I'd be like, boo, and it was like deer in the headlights. But why? I mean, that's just so weird because I can talk all day long on stage and answer questions. And, I can do talk from stage on grief or women's empowerment or whatever. But if you start videoing me, I started freaking out. So basically, it was just something for me to break through that shyness of video. And I
Mhm.
was like, well, what do I call it? I don't know. I'll just call it Real Girl Talk because I don't know what else to talk about. We'll just talk about real girl talk stuff. And so that's how it started. Well, I had actually put, I do a vision board workshop every year. They sell out. Of course, we couldn't do one, because of COVID.
Last year. Yep.
This year, we did it last year because it's always in January. We couldn't do it
Mm.
this year. But we do the whole vision board. And on my vision boards, before I started the radio, um, on the vision board, I actually had a hand with a microphone in it. And it was supposed to be more of just because of what I was doing with the Facebook Live, but I put it on there and I put a symbol, an iHeartRadio logo on the vision board. And it wasn't that I was creating in my mind some type of podcast, but interesting enough that when I did that, it was maybe about 7 or 8 months later is when I started going, I think I'll have a podcast radio show. And it just came out of nowhere. And it's just crazy, right? So I actually put a picture of Sofia Vergara, but I have yet to turn into the image of her. So I don't know I just don't know if it works or not. But I put all of these things on my vision board, and it's crazy because these women will come back to me after they've been in my workshop, like the next year. And we'll have a little session where
Mm.
you can talk about things. And this girl, oh my gosh, I put an engagement ring on and I got married. I met the man of my dreams, or, about the car, or, we were looking for a house and all of a sudden we found this house and it's almost exactly the house that they put on their vision board. And again, it goes back to as a man thinketh, so is he, in creating that vision for yourself, just like, oh, white Cadillac, white Cadillac. And all of a sudden, you see the white Cadillacs everywhere and you end up with a white Cadillac. So the vision boards serve the same purpose. It's all about that law of attraction, you know,
Love
really,
it.
it really in itself. But anyway, I got sidetracked on that story, but it's true. I mean, that's how the podcast kind of started, and it just took off. So obviously it was for a reason. I had a lot of confirmation from it, and we have hundreds of thousands of listeners. So, I'm here for a reason. And
Yeah.
sometimes I
Heck
don't think
yeah.
they want to listen to me. So I have guests so they can learn from other women and not just me. Right. So yeah, I love this. I really, really do. The evolution of a hot mess. Where did that subtitle come from?
In my professional life now, I have students and stuff that come and they want to know, like, I own several practices and, I've had a lot of outward success. And so we get people that come. And I think sometimes, you look at your mentors and you think they've got all their stuff figured out. I was just going to swear. And then I remember you're rated clean. So I'm not going to swear. Yeah. On your podcast.
You'll be surprised what some of my guests will say, and I'll go, "Oh gosh, that's okay."
Yeah. um and what I think one of my partners in practice, she said to me, I like that I thought one thing when you were my mentor, and then as I got to know you, I realized, like, she's just a regular person that's figuring it all out and just keeps
Yeah.
putting action steps in. And it's like, yeah, we all are. We're all so much more alike. So, I think most of us identify, whether the world knows it or not, as a hot mess in some aspect. And so
Yeah.
it just felt authentic to call myself like an evolution of a hot mess, because I'm still a hot mess in certain regards. Like today, for instance, I went home at lunch to nurse my baby and had forgotten to give her the car seat. And so I go, I'll go out to the car and get the car seat for you before I leave to go back to the office. And I got sidetracked and grabbed a sheet of paper she needed instead, go back in, leave for work again. She's like calling me like, hey, you never left the car seat here. And it's like, okay, how does that one thing escape my brain in like the 30 seconds it took for me to walk out to my car? And yet it happened. So it's like hot mess, like just these little
Happens to
things.
me all of the time. As a matter of fact, I told my husband, it's so funny that you said that. Just this morning, I did something and forgot something, and I got sidetracked. And I said, just nickname me sidetracked, because I will do that all of the time. I think I have I have so much going on. I feel like all the time that I have to roll it back and
Yes.
just say, okay. And I do to-do list. I have to keep a calendar. I keep a calendar on my iPad. I keep a calendar
Mhm.
on my actual calendar because I'm very anal and I color code it.
Mhm.
So, if it's a podcast recording, it's pink. If it's personal, it's blue. I mean, I have to glance down at a quick little glance and know where the heck I am if I'm in town, out of town.
Right. No,
What
I
I'm
get it. I
doing,
get it. And
'cause I
sometimes I say
forget.
people will be like, "How do you do it all?" And it's like, I don't. I have really good people around me and I drop the ball and then I say, "Thank you for your grace here." And it's like it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's okay. That's right. We're all just a hot mess. I remember one time I went into my family physician and I don't know, I was flustered about something. I said, and I was telling her this and that, and I was all over the place and, kind of like the squirrel. And I said, I don't know. I think I'm just a ball of anxiety today. And she says, no, girl, you're a hot mess. I said, well, there's something a family physician has never called me. My diagnosis is
Yeah.
hot mess.
It's all good. We all are.
I love it. Thank you so much. Tell everybody where we can get your book.
Oh, I'd love to. It's on Amazon, so that's probably the best place to go. Type in Reclamation. My name's Lona Cook. And yeah, I'd love it if you love it. If you'd leave us a review too, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. And where can we find you on social media?
Yep, I'm on Instagram and I have an author page on Facebook. And I think I'm on LinkedIn too, although I can't say I post a ton on there. And then my website is just my name, so drlonacook.com.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lona. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Sherry. This was super fun. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in all the way through Real Girl Talk. Make sure you subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you happen to have iTunes, would you do me a huge favor and leave us a rating and review of the show? That's the way that we get this message out to more and more people around the world. And giving us a review and rating, something good is going to come back your way. Plus, I know you're the type of person that wants others to live their best lives. So can you copy this link, share it to your friends, share it on social media? Remember, people need to be inspired. They need to have tips. They need to have business ideas more than ever right now. And I know that you can help me on this mission. Thank you again so much. If you want to be a supporter of the show, go back to realgirltalkpodcast.com, click Be a Supporter. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart for being a part of Real Girl Talk podcast. And until next week, keep your encouragement tank full, your faith in God, and create your beautiful life.